2024 primary. The race for Los Angeles District Attorney is being hotly contested. Incumbent DA George Gascon's efforts to implement progressive criminal justice reforms have generated pushback from within his own office, the broader law enforcement community, and some in the general public. He was the subject of at least 2 failed attempts to qualify recalls. The concerns about crime are reflected in the polling results of black voters. Nearly 1 in 4 have been victims of violent crime or have someone close to them who has been a victim. 1 in 5 black voters have personally been victims of property crime in the last 2 years. A majority of respondents feel less safe than they did a year or 2 ago, but they reject the notion that criminal justice reform has gone too far. This year, black voters will be looking for candidates who speak to the complexity of the issues as opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach. Nearly half of black voters have an unfavorable view of DA Gascon, but his challengers are largely unknown. Nearly half of the black voters are also undecided, which means there's a clear opportunity for candidates to connect with black voters. Our poll makes 3 things abundantly clear. Black voters matter. Black voters are closely following this race, and the candidates for DA have a lot of work to do. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to the mobilization and use of the franchise to empower our audience to identify and pursue their interests in advancing equity, inclusive representation, and multiracial solidarity. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. We welcome your feedback.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit TheTavisSmileyShow.com. That's TheTavisSmileyShow.com or wherever you get your podcast and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live show at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today in our second hour.
I'm more convinced than ever that we can win. We have fought up the rough side of the mountain. We can win. I just want young America to do me one favor. Just one favor. Exercise the right to dream. You must face reality, that which is, but then dream of the reality that ought to be, that must be. Live beyond the pain of reality with the dream of a bright tomorrow. Use hope and imagination as weapons of survival and progress. Use love to motivate you and obligate you to serve the human family. Young America, dream.
Can't do much better than that. You just cannot do much better than that. Today we celebrate the 40th anniversary of Jesse Jackson's historic 1984 presidential campaign with his son, former Congressman Jesse L. Jackson Jr., and Reverend Jackson's former deputy campaign manager, James Zogby. That's today in hour 2, looking back 40 years ago at that iconic speech from Jesse Jackson at the DNC in San Francisco. Can't believe 4 decades have passed since that moment. In our third hour.
So you know we're doing a documentary. 3 players, NECA, Stewie, and JJ.
Those are great.
Exactly.
You become a fan of people once you get a chance.
Exactly.
We don't know to care about things until we're told stories about why we care about them. And we need to tell stories about women athletes, because otherwise, how are we supposed to know?
This is the meeting of the CBA committee. We are exactly 12 months out before a decision on opt-out.
And that's what today is all about, is understanding our value and our worth and what that looks like.
Will we opt out? That's the question.
We're clearly at a moment where things are pivotal in how people are viewing women's sports. We have amazing basketball players in every market that deserve a story to be told.
New York CBA, maybe he's gonna come October 12th.
That's game 1 of the finals. We have no choice.
My mom loves that I'm kind of like a junior mom.
Being from the Bahamas, coming to the United States to become an MVP.
I'm not one of the best, I'm the best. So when you talk about me, put some respect on my name.
Everyone in the sports world, wake up.
We all want this league to succeed, but we're not satisfied.
We need to get past this idea that we should just be grateful for how it is.
He broke a lot of records. Attendance, ratings. Oh, women's sports, right? Hell no.
For all of the people in the league who work their asses off.
I want to be a great mom and a great wife, but also a great basketball player.
We are the premier women's basketball league in the world for a reason.
They will impact what is next for women's sports.
I want to see it better.
This is our opportunity to get it right.
We'll be joined in hour 3 by women's basketball legend, 4-time WNBA champion Cheryl Swoops, and WNBPA Executive Director Terry Carmichael Jackson to talk about the new documentary, Shattered Glass, a WNBPA story, now streaming on Tubi. Look forward to being joined by 4-time champ Cheryl Swoops when we get today to hour 3. But we commence today's show in a moment in celebration of the 80th anniversary of the United Negro College Fund with its president and CEO, who I am pleased to see sitting across from me in this studio right now. All of his handsome visage is in this building right now. We'll commence a dialogue with Dr. Michael Lomax, celebrating 80 years of the United Negro College Fund when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
You can do it all by yourself, baby girl. What's your name? Let me talk to you. Let me buy you a drink.
Spilled your drink? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand. So you can get back to your night. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. Visit jpmorganchase.com/racial equity and get the tools to help reach your financial goals.
Art tells a story, your story, and inspires others in your community to do the same. This Black History Month, AARP is celebrating the undeniable impact and contributions of Black art and artists everywhere. We're thrilled to celebrate these creatives over 50. Through their work and persistence, they make society a better place by bringing us all closer together. Learn more at aarp.org/blackcommunity.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Pleased to have you join us today in this early part of our program. It's going to be a great 3-hour show today, and we are starting in this hour with Dr. Michael Lomax, who is the president and CEO of the UNCF, the United Negro College Fund. Hard to believe this entity has been around now for 80 years. He's here in L.A. for a number of things. We'll talk about that as we move through the hour, but I want to start again in celebration of 80 years of this grand organization, making sure that brothers and sisters across the country get a chance at a higher education. So, first of all, Michael Lomax, it is good to see you. It has been too long, my friend.
Well, it's good for you to see me and not to view me.
Not
you
to
know,
view you, yeah. Yeah, better to be seen than to be viewed.
Yeah,
huh?
you got that.
You been well though?
I am doing well,
Yeah.
and 80-year anniversary is something to celebrate. I will just say I was not there for the founding.
Yeah,
but I did know founders,
Yeah.
and this organization is not just doing okay.
Yeah,
we're killing it.
I saw that big. Yeah,
and we have we've kept that brand energized because the work is so strong today. We're helping more young kids get a college degree, and we're strengthening black colleges. I hope we're going to talk about that today.
We will talk about it. I want to get your take on Jesse Jackson 40 years ago. I know you were at that convention as a delegate, so let me do that just in a quick second.
Okay.
But you said the organization is not just doing okay, you're doing quite well. We all saw that big announcement a few days ago.
Yeah.
$100 million?
Yeah, so...
Hold on. We got to pause on that. $100 million donation.
Yes, from the Lilly Endowment, which
Lord.
is the second largest foundation in America today.
Yeah.
And you know what? Lilly in Indianapolis, Indiana, has
my
been
hometown
has been supporting UNCF for 80 years.
Yeah.
And this was the largest gift.
Yeah.
And it's a forward-looking gift, because what this gift is going to enable us to do, because we got to choose how we would use the $100 million, and we're going to use it to strengthen the endowments of historically black colleges. And I hope we'll talk about why we need to build endowments and institutional wealth building in the black community, because we talk a lot about making individuals rich.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about black businesses, but we don't talk about the institutions in our community and making sure that they have the wealth to do the job as well.
Yeah. In a moment where people are becoming more and more nativist, in a moment where in the most multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic America ever, there are still racial divisions that are being plowed every day by people like Donald Trump and beyond. How do I process the fact that the good white folk, I'm from Indiana, so I can say this, that the good white folk at Lilly, for whatever reasons, have been supporting this institution aimed at helping black people, Negroes back in the day, colored folk back in the day. They've been doing it for 80 years. How do I read that?
Well, I think you read it as, first of all, recognition that we didn't get here by ourselves. We've had a lot of allies and supporters, and sometimes we forget that. And Lilly Endowment has been one of them in the Midwest, in Indianapolis, wealth built from the great wealth of Eli Lilly and family that created the pharmaceutical company. But I think that today this reminds me that although there are these nativist and group we're all allies at some point. We're all under one flag. It's one nation. And I actually think that the 40th anniversary of Jesse Jackson's bid for president of the United States. Now, I was at San Francisco 40 years ago when he gave that speech. And if you will remember, and I was a delegate, and if you will remember who got the Mondale and Ferraro, 40 years later, there is a white president and a black woman, a black Asian woman is the vice president of the United States. And I know it's easy to say, we haven't made progress, we haven't come very far. I'm sorry. But 40 years ago, I did not think there would be a black woman a heartbeat away from the presidency. And we're talking about, well, they're not doing it. We have a black woman, the number 2 elected official in America, the world's largest democracy. And, I saw Reverend Jackson out in Indianapolis this weekend, and he's having some real health problems.
Parkinson's, yeah.
But I will say this. He is such a hero for democracy in this nation.
Yeah.
Because he challenged that that notion of who could be president. And guess what? We've had a black president. We have a black woman as vice president. The world is different.
Yep, it is different, and we would talk about this in hour 2 with his son, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. and James Zogby, who was on the campaign team with Reverend.
And was his pollster.
That's right.
Zogby.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I always find it worth repeating, and if you listen to the second hour, I can tell you now, you're going to hear it again, because Jesse Jr. and I are going to unpack this thing for you. But you mentioned that black president, and for those who understand politics and who are really attuned to this, they will acknowledge and recognize, although many have not, that there is no Barack Obama without Jesse Jackson. And not just because Jesse was there first, but because of what Jesse did, as you'll recall, after that convention to force a change in the rules.
Right.
Before Jesse Jackson runs in 84 and 88, for those who weren't around then or don't recall this, let me just draw a line for you from Jesse to Barack. When Jesse runs in 84 and 88, there is a process in the DNC, winner take all. So whoever comes in first place, no matter how many other folk were running, if you win California, you win Georgia, you win any state, if you come in first place, you take all the delegates. There was no proportional delegate taking back then. Jesse ran a pretty strong campaign in 84, an even stronger campaign in 88. And he and Ron Brown, the first African-American to be the head of the DNC, died tragically in a plane crash as Secretary of Commerce during the Clinton era. Ron becomes the national chairman. Jesse and them make that happen. And then they force these rule changes. And the rule changes go from winner take all to proportional delegate taking. So that you take what you win. You take what you earn. If Jesse had not forced that rule change in the 80s when he ran, Barack Obama would have lost to Hillary Clinton and would never have been the nominee if Jesse had not forced that change. Because Hillary won in enough places that if it had been winner take all, Barack would have been way behind in the delegate count. So Barack only becomes the nominee because all those years earlier, Jesse had forced a rule change that allowed, as I said, proportional delegate taking, and you end up with your first African-American president. What's my point? My point is Dr. Michael Lomax's point, that we are all part of a continuum, and each one of us has to do our part to get our paragraph right in the story that we are telling. But I think Jesse doesn't get enough credit for all that he has done, but particularly for paving the road and forcing the rule change. And if he hadn't run successfully enough in 84 and 88, he wouldn't have had the power to force those rule changes inside the DNC. Say nothing of the fact that in 84 and 88, Jesse had what respectfully Barack Obama did not have. I'm not hating on Barack, just telling the truth. Barack never had coattails. You cannot point to a list of black people all across the country who were elected because of Barack Hussein Obama. Jesse in 84 and 88, man, there were so many black folks that got elected all across the country on Jesse's coattails that we celebrate and revere and honor today. But I just don't think that Jesse gets the respect that he deserves. Your thoughts, Michael Lomax?
Well, I think that if we don't write our own history, somebody's going to write it for us.
That's right.
And, coming here to Crenshaw in Los Angeles in 2024 and remembering what Crenshaw in Los Angeles was like in 1954 when I was a kid growing up here.
Yes.
And then thinking about all of the giants who made this possible. Tom Bradley, you know, who people say, well, he was conservative and he was a moderate. Tom Bradley was the first black mayor, but not the last black mayor of Los Angeles. And I'm going to tell you this, as important as Jesse Jackson is to our history of achieving political power, think about all those local elected officials. Think about the coattails that they had. Think about the foundation that they laid, which you and I were talking about this at the beginning, because I said I was on a flight coming here last night with Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
You know, Stacey Abrams is another one of those people who laid the foundation and elected the first black senator from Georgia and the first Jewish senator from
both
Georgia.
of them, exactly.
You know, that none of this happens in a vacuum. And so I want to go back to Jesse. Jesse was considered a troublemaker and a provocateur, and Jesse Jackson paid his dues.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of people stand on his shoulders.
Yeah.
And he has some very big shoulders.
And Jesse said all the time, as you know, because for Jesse, everything is a rhyme. Up with hope, down with dope.
Yeah.
Put hope in your brains, not dope in your veins. From the outhouse to the White House.
Yeah.
Hands that pick cottonwood, and I'll pick a president. He said all the time, I'm not a troublemaker, I'm a tree shaker. I'm not a troublemaker, I'm a tree shaker.
And with Parkinson's, he's still shaking more trees than some of us will ever shake in a lifetime.
Yes, indeed. I was in Chicago not long ago and spent some time with him, as I always do when I'm there. So, the Parkinson's is all over him. You can't help but see that he is having trouble these days. But his mind is still sharp. Reminded me of Ali at the end. Ali's mind was still sharp. Jesse's mind is still sharp, even though Parkinson's is ravaging his body. So we'll celebrate more of Jesse Jackson in hour two with Jesse Jackson Jr., former congressman, and James Zogby, a great pollster, and was on Jesse's campaign team back 40 years ago when he gave that grand speech in San Francisco. There was another great speech in San Francisco, too. You remember Mario Cuomo?
You know, I don't remember
the
Mario
city on
Cuomo.
the hill.
Yeah.
Former governor of New York. He at that same convention. I mean, Jesse killed it, but Mayor
Yeah.
Cuomo gave that speech about a city on the hill.
Well, I just remember being on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was a mess down there on the floor.
You were a delegate from Atlanta, of course.
Yes.
So you grew up here. And,
Yeah.
and I want to just mention right quick before you move forward. You mentioned Tom Bradley. And when I thought of you coming in studio today, I didn't just think of the mayor and you're growing up in this city. Of course, you know I worked for Tom Bradley.
Yeah.
That's how I got started. But I thought of your precious and your dear sister.
Oh, thank you.
Melanie.
Yeah.
His Michael Lomax's sister, Melanie, was a brilliant attorney in this city of Los Angeles. This program is heard across the country, but obviously we're based in L.A. But Melanie, a brilliant legal mind, and was a strong supporter of Tom Bradley, and served on a number of commissions. And I remember her well when I was much younger as an aide running around City Hall.
Well, I want to just say Melanie was a courageous champion advocate and a tough adversary. And what people don't understand is that when Tom fired Daryl Gates, the police chief, and we had a lot of police brutality in this town, the person who fired him was Melanie Lomax.
She was the head of the commission.
And she was a tough sister, and left us too soon.
Yep. You all recall Daryl Gates, of course, police chief. He was at the helm during the Rodney King beating and all the riots, the uprisings that followed now 30 plus years ago. But it was Michael Lomax's sister, Melanie, who was, in fact, the head of the police commission, and the mayor made a decision he's got to go, but the commission had to fire him.
Yeah.
And it was Melanie Lomax who pulled the trigger.
Yep.
And we all the better for it. I'll leave that where
We will leave it.
I'll leave it where it is. But a tribute to your sister, Melanie. Let me go back to the UNCF. Again, there are a number of things you've raised that I want to unpack, and I'm glad I got you for the hour here, or what remains of it. You mentioned earlier that this money that comes from Lilly, this $100 million contribution that Lilly gives to the UNCF, is going to be used to shore up HBCUs. Tell me more about that.
Well, we're going through a renaissance with HBCUs. When I went off to Morehouse in 1964 from Los Angeles, California, my classmates said, why would you go to Georgia to go to college? You could go to UCLA. You could go to Berkeley. And, somebody was looking out for me, and I went to Morehouse, and it made all the difference. I discovered something my family had known. Black colleges are incredible. And they've really gone through a lot over this 60-year period. Some of them have done very well. Spelman College is, just number one, always ranked number one. It's the number one institution in terms of endowment per student. Howard University is going to probably be the first historically black college or university to get an endowment of $1 billion. But think about it. There are 102 historically black colleges. You put all their endowments, that's their wealth. That's their cash wealth. And they got about $5 billion added up. Harvard University has a $50 billion endowment. So, we talk a lot about we've got to build wealth in the black community. We've got to build it not just from getting a good job, but by savings and buying real estate and having assets. We want businesses that are wealthy. But, at the end of the day, we got to have our institutions wealthy too. And our black colleges have got to grow their endowments. And so what UNCF is doing over the next 3 years, we will raise at least $370 million that will ensure that the 37 private historically black colleges that we support every year have $10 million extra in their endowments. And we will keep that $370 million pooled as one endowment. We will invest it, and it will grow. And they can never touch the principal, but they will get resources from that. And our hope is, our expectation is that when people see what having wealth for an institution can do for its ability to achieve its mission, that they're going to start investing in endowments.
I got a minute here, and let me just do that. I'll set up where I want to go when we come forward, and we'll get there when we come forward. There have been a number of stories. I've been in a number of conversations about this. It's nothing strange to you. There are a number of these HBCUs that are struggling, as you mentioned. I just had the president of Fisk on this program a few weeks ago. And I've spoken at many of these colleges, as you know, over the years. Many of them are in trouble, and there's been a suggestion that they ought to consolidate. Now, every school has its own history, its own legacy, and that's not an easy conversation to have. But is it better to have some of these smaller HBCUs that are going under consolidate and bring that history together, whatever that looks like, and conjoin the names, whatever that looks like, and save the legacy, or have these schools one by one fall off? I want to get your thought on that. I also want to get your thought when we come forward on Biden-Harris. You mentioned Kamala Harris earlier. They are now starting to tout all across the country what they have done for black folk as they run for re-election. And one of the things on their list is what they've done for HBCU. That's on their list. I want to check with you. You're the expert here. Tell me whether or not that's the truth, or whether or not I need to chin check them for lying about what they've done for HBCUs. A lot more to talk about with Michael Lomax, Dr. Michael Lomax, who's the president and CEO of the United Negro College Fund, now 80 years strong. You're listening to him, and I'm glad about it, on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A suspect is in custody in Colorado related to the death of two students in a university dorm room. The two victims were found shot to death at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. The suspect, identified as Nicholas Jordan, who is black, was arrested days after a student and a woman were found dead at a University of Colorado Springs residence. Police say the shooting appears to be an isolated incident and not a random attack. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley will give a speech today on the state of the presidential race. She is set to deliver remarks in Greenville, South Carolina at noon Eastern Time. The speech comes days just before the former South Carolina governor is set to go head-to-head with former President Trump in her home state's GOP primary. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on your home for 24/7 news, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Wendy's Breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles lets you choose your perfect duo from your fave 4, like a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, or medium hot coffee. Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in the combo. Single item at regular price.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Lakers legends Michael Cooper and Jerry West are among 14 finalists for the class of 2024 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Cooper helped the Lakers win 5 NBA championships. He also was an 8-time selection on the NBA's all-defensive team. This is the second time West is getting Hall of Fame consideration. He was inducted as a player in 1980. This one is for his work as an executive with the Lakers, Memphis Grizzlies, Golden State Warriors, and the Clippers. West is still working for the Clippers as a consultant. The inductees will be announced April 6th during the NCAA Final Four in Phoenix. Clippers coach Ty Lue was fined $35,000 by the NBA for criticizing the refs after the Clippers beat Golden State on February 14th. Lue was ejected from the game early in the fourth quarter after getting 2 technicals. Lue was one of only 5 NBA coaches that had not received a tech all season. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice, and injustice. The courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. If we're the ones disproportionately impacted by these climate catastrophes, why should we be silent? Turning up the volume all year long on the climate conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of this light of ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This light of ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This light of ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer's suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8-count.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm-fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties. Classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Oh, this cold.
Honey?
Honey?
Honey, you need DayQuil Severe Honey.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste, because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe with honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honeylicious, power through your day medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
We were talking about Jesse Jackson earlier with our guest, Dr. Michael Lomax, who is the president and CEO of the United Negro College Fund, now celebrating 80 years of ensuring that our babies get access to a high-quality education on great campuses all across this country. We were talking about Jesse earlier, and we'll talk about Jesse again in the next hour with his son, Jesse Jackson Jr. and James Zogby, as we celebrate the 40th anniversary of Jesse's historic speech at the DNC coming up later this summer, this year in Chicago. It's going to be hot in Chicago. I'm told like 1968 hot. We shall see. But we're going to talk about Jesse in hour two. But I come back to that because somebody told me, I read once, and I assume this is true, that when you were just a kid, you actually met the guy that Jesse worked for? A guy named Martin Luther King Jr.?
Oh, yes. Yeah, well, I was saying, no, so, my family owned a little newspaper here from 1940 to 1960, the Los Angeles Tribune. And my mother was what calls an armchair journalist. She wrote the paper, but she usually sat at home and got all the news and she wrote it up. But in 1956, when the bus boycott occurred, she said, I got to cover this story. And she went for a week to Alabama. And this is a mother of 6. And she covered it. Spent a week, met Martin Luther King, met Rosa Parks, met Coretta, met Abernathy, had dinner at the King home. And the next year, he came to Los Angeles and stayed at the Watkins Hotel on Adams Boulevard. We picked him up and brought him over to the house for cake and ice cream and an interview with my mother. And 6 children sitting on the floor watching her interviews.
Stop it.
Martin Luther King.
Stop it.
And my grandmother and the ladies in her book club gave a reception fundraiser for Dr. King at the Pacific Town Club on Adams. So and we have a letter that he wrote to my mother. He said, you write about me different from anybody else. So no, we did meet him. And I will say one of the great honors of my life is I have known every generation of the King family. I knew his parents. I knew all of his siblings. I served on the Fulton County Commission with his son, Martin. And I know his granddaughter.
His only granddaughter.
His only granddaughter. So that great family made extraordinary contributions to America and not through doing it yet.
Yeah. No, our thoughts and prayers are still with that family over the loss of Dexter recently. Dexter Scott King just memorialized a week or two ago. But I'm through now. I could just stop the conversation.
We're not going to do history. We're going to talk about the future.
Yeah, I get, but still, man, I'm stuck that you are a kid. You and Melody and your other siblings are sitting on the floor as Dr. King comes to your house for cake and ice cream.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. When we I rode with my mother over to pick him up, and it's a cold winter morning. And he's standing out front with a fedora and a big coat on. And, he was pretty cool dresser. Smoking a cigarette, I have to say.
Yeah. he got caught every now and then. He got caught every now and then.
And he came over. And, the one thing that really impresses me in recollection is that he was a minister. And he did a lot of pastoral counseling. And he was good with kids. And he kept us quiet while he talked with my mother. And he was just, he was a rare human being. And so this is 1956. 12 years later, I'm a senior at Morehouse. 1968. He's been assassinated. And my job during that funeral was to take people VIPs who came over to the Spelman campus to pay their respects where Dr. King lay in state in an open casket. And I remember taking Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis in, and, it was like I was a full circle moment in my life. And it's my memory of him in that casket after giving his life for us. That's been my motivation for the rest of my life.
I have such high regard for Ossie Davis for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is he's the only person that spoke at both Malcolm and Martin's funeral. He did both. You got to be a bad man to be friends with both. I mean, friends of that proximity,
yes,
that closeness to Malcolm and Martin to speak at both of their services.
Yeah. But, I think it also says that the way the outside world views the differences inside the black community, we reconcile those in our lives every day.
That's right. I was honored to be asked by Ruby D. I spoke, Bill Clinton, Harry Belafonte, and yours truly eulogized Ozzy at his service at Riverside Church.
And that's another giant we lost last year was Harry.
We're losing him, man. We're losing him. That's why I'm glad you're still here doing your great work.
I'm not leaving anytime soon.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I hope not. A couple things I mentioned earlier I want to get to. Just watching my time is getting away from me. This notion that some of these HBCUs that are struggling ought to consolidate. Your thoughts?
Well, we have had consolidation. I was the president of Dillard University in New Orleans. That was the consolidation of Strait University and New Orleans University. There's a school in Austin called Houston Tillotson. Houston College and Tillotson College. There's a very large HBCU in Atlanta called Clark Atlanta University. It's a consolidation. So we have done consolidations, and we will perhaps. But one of the things that we're doing at UNCF is we're saying, every one of those communities, whether it's Marshall, Texas, or Talladega, Alabama, or some other, or Augusta, Georgia, where Payne College is, they've got an HBCU, and that HBCU may not be doing well financially, but it's an anchor. And so what we've decided to do at UNCF is we're going to raise money for them. We're going to help them be financially more successful. We're going to bring new business practices of shared services and other things together so that they can continue to be anchored in that community and serving the people in that community. Because we need black colleges. We don't need to get rid of any black colleges. Those are the institutions we need to preserve, but we need to give them the resources to have the impact.
Tell me quickly here whether or not Biden and Harris are being truthful when they brag about all they've done for HBCUs.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, that during COVID, when I thought black colleges would go out of business, the federal government provided over $8 billion in support. And that was done by two elements of the federal government. One was the Congressional Black Caucus. Without them, nothing would have happened. And during the Biden administration, they have worked actively with the Congressional Black Caucus to provide tremendous support. Over the last 4 years, the United Negro College Fund has raised over $1 billion in that 4-year period. We would have raised maybe $400 million in an earlier time. So the philanthropic community has given. But I'm going to tell you the big difference that the Biden administration has made. One of them is around student loan debt. Now, they can talk all this junk they want, but they're wiping out student loan debt. They didn't get the Supreme Court didn't give them the support they needed. They keep just doing it administratively, and millions of borrowers have had their debt eliminated or reduced, or the terms of their repayment improved. So I'm going to tell you, people cannot take them for granted. They're doing their job, and I believe that you're going to see him have another wave of wiping out of loans, and they're going to make a big difference.
It doesn't hurt when the vice president is an HBCU grad.
It doesn't hurt, and
all right, let's shout out the Bison of Howard.
There are some other schools, but Howard has been in, they've been in everybody's sights, and they've been doing a great job. And the vice president, is a proud graduate of Howard.
When we come forward in our dialogue with Dr. Michael Lomax, President and CEO of the United Negro College Fund, now celebrating its 80th anniversary, he is in town tonight for a major appearance at the Skirball Center. It is a Jewish center called Skirball here in Los Angeles. He's making a major presentation there tonight around the notion of blacks and Jews and our relationship down through the years. I will be making a presentation at this same Skirball Center tomorrow night. So they got Michael Lomax tonight and Tavis Smiley tomorrow night. We'll talk about what he's going to talk about tonight, today, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on! What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Michael Lomax, tell me about what you're doing at Skirball this evening here in L.A.
Well, it's a discussion about what I didn't realize is a cottage industry in higher education, and that's to write about Black-Jewish relations. And a lot of it focuses on the civil rights movement and the Black Power movement. And there will be some people who will talk about that. I'm going to talk about the relationship between Black philanthropists and historically Black colleges, which really predates all of these and has been a continuous arc of activity. And it begins with Julius Rosenwald, who was the CEO at Sears, who teamed up with Booker T. Washington in 1912 to start building rural schools in the Deep South. And together, they initiated a program that built 5,000 one-room schoolhouses across the South between 1912 and 1935 when Rosenwald died. And, of course, Washington died in 1915. Built 5,000 schoolhouses and educated over 500,000 Black kids in that period and took Black folks from rural illiteracy to literacy between the two wars. You know, there were no high schools in the South. There were no public schools in the rural South. Sharecroppers' children had to work 12 months out of the year. But when these schools got built, they could go to school and they could learn to read and write. And I will tell you, that changed American educational history. And ever since Rosenwald did that, Jewish philanthropists have been investing in education. And you think about Walter Annenberg gave $50 million to UNCF. You think about the folks who have been building charter schools all across the country, Bloomberg, the Fishers. So that's a story of commitment to black education, which is important to tell, and I'm going to tell it tonight.
Skirball is going to be blessed this evening to hear from the president and CEO of the UNCF, Dr. Michael Lomax. Again, I'll be talking tomorrow night on a different subject. About
Well, what are you going to talk about?
I don't know. I ain't got that far yet. I ain't had time to think about it yet. It's really about civil rights. It's blacks and Jews in civil rights. I suspect I'll talk about Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel and King and a few other things.
But I just would tell you, if you're going to talk about Jesse, you got who's Zogby?
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, it's a connection. It's a strong connection. Thank you for that. I like that.
Yes.
I mean, weave that in.
Well, I'm going to tell you something.
I'm taking notes on Michael Lomax.
That's just one thing I would say to you is they're going to tell me that blacks and Jews have been fighting. Well, cousins fight.
Yeah, indeed.
But I'm going to tell you, when the neo-Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan come looking, they're not going to come for one or the other. They're coming for both of us. So we better be there together.
On that note, when we come forward in our remaining moments with Michael Lomax, Dr. Michael Lomax, we've been friends so long I call him Michael. He is Dr. Michael Lomax. The U.S. Supreme Court just rejected hearing another case on affirmative action. I'll tell you what that's about in light of the fact they've already wiped it out in higher education, and get Michael Lomax's thoughts on what that reality means for black students in the years to come. We'll close on that note with Dr. Michael Lomax on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows the Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
So there's breaking news I mentioned earlier to our friend Dr. Michael Lomax, who's in studio with us for 4 more minutes. The U.S. Supreme Court just moments ago, hours ago, not even hours now, declined a chance to further restrict efforts to promote diversity in education, turning away an appeal by a coalition of parents and students who argue that an elite Virginia public school's revised admissions policy racially discriminates against Asian Americans. So this case is out of Thomas Jefferson High School in the Commonwealth of Virginia. They wanted the Supreme Court to take this case to further restrict affirmative action. The Supreme Court said no. Of course, two people dissented. They said, no, we want to hear this case. They dissented. One of them was Samuel Alito. Care to guess who the other one was, Michael Lomax?
Was it his name Thomas?
Yeah. Clarence Thomas said, no, bring that case. I mean, Alito and Thomas dissented.
Yeah.
They wanted another bite at the apple to further do damage to affirmative action, but the court writ large turned the case away. It is what it is. In the 3 minutes I have left, what is your sense of how this assault, as I see it, attack, however one looks at it, certainly wiping out affirmative action in higher education, given your work at UNCF, how does that impact black and brown students?
Well, first of all, it's not going to affect historically black colleges because these institutions do not make race-based decisions. They just, if you apply and you are qualified, you get to go.
Yep.
I thought where we were perhaps going to see some assault was on race-based scholarship programs. And so there are at UNCF.
It's coming. It's coming.
Well,
you don't think so?
Well, I don't know. I mean, this may say that they think they've opined enough on this, but if they go after scholarships for black students, then they're going to have to go after the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. They're going to have to go after the Asian Pacific Islander Scholarship Fund, and the every other scholarship.
That I'm not convinced that would stop them.
Well, I think that they're going to have a lot more people to sue.
Yeah.
And they can't just do black folks and not have that speak to all Catholics, Jews. They can't, So I don't know whether that would be. I think the Supreme Court is a political body, and I think that they probably feel like they stirred up enough of a hornet's nest, and they may not want any more on this subject.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Well, I'm prayerful.
But that ain't what Alito and Thomas wanted. But I digress on that. In the minute I have left, 80 years of the UNCF going strong. To your point, $1 billion raised in the last 5 years? You said. So you guys are doing your thing, and you've been there now 20 years. 20 years. So congratulations to
Thank you.
They've been blessed to have you for 2 decades, and you've made this thing even bigger than it was before you arrived. What's the future of UNCF?
Well, I have an aspirational goal, and I told you about a $370 million endowment. I want it really to be a $1 billion endowment, so I'm going to have to hustle over the next 3 years. But I believe that if we build wealth for our institutions, no one can take that away. And so I think that just like you got to have money in the bank, just like you got to have assets, institutions have to have it. And if that story gets told, we're going to build a $1 billion endowment.
And that is what I think Black America has to focus on now more than anything. We've had great individual success, but institutional success is something very different. And the older I get, the more I see things the way you see things. It can't just be about your individual success. I've been blessed in a variety of ways, but it's about building institutions, and you've done that remarkably well.
Well, I'm just going to ask some of those black billionaires to make a contribution to the Negro College Fund. Because a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
There you go. I think you just did. That slogan still works. Dr. Michael Lomax, President and CEO of the United Negro College Fund, now celebrating 80 years here in L.A. tonight, appearing at the Skirball Center. I don't know if you can get in, but it's going to be a great talk tonight, and we thank Skirball for inviting him into town, which gave me the opportunity to get him in studio. Dr. Lomax, I love you. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you.
We'll talk about Jesse Jackson 40 years later in the next hour of Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information